So Enzo Maresca's Chelsea come away from Azerbaijan with just the 1 point after drawing 2-2 with Qarabag. And I'll tell you what, right, before we even get into the video, that's for you lot, Carabag. I don't know if there's any Qarabag fans that are watching or that even know me, but at the same time, I think Qarabag did really well tonight. I think they did really well. So, very much deserved round of applause. But let's speak about the game as a whole. Let's talk about Chelsea's performance, what went wrong, and what we can build upon. But before we do all that, people, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you guys are new around here, please do hit a like on the video. And if at the end of the video you like the content and you want to see more from myself, please do subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. So the game did not start well at all for Chelsea, in all honesty, because literally 4-5 minutes in, I would say, one of my favourite players in this Chelsea team, although he hardly ever gets a game, Romeo Lavia, he comes off injured, and to be honest, it looked like a muscular injury to his right upper leg, and despite Enzo and Caicedo having that midfield pivot locked down right now, I've got to be honest and just admit that I'm gutted about this one. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. We don't know whether it was precautionary, but considering this is his 3rd season at Chelsea Football Club now, one of those seasons I don't believe he played a game in, maybe he played 1 game in, but what I do know for certain is with his substitution today, he's still not completed 90 minutes for Chelsea Football Club. And when we nicked him from under the noses of Liverpool, I don't think anyone in their right mind could have predicted that that would be the outcome we're looking at. I feel with Romeo Lavia, there's massive potential there. I've said it time in, time out. He has the potential to be up there with Enzo and Caicedo. And my reasoning for that is maybe not as good as either of them, but he can do a bit of both. He can do that cutting out the ball, but he can also carry the ball. I'm gutted to see him out of the lineup now. And the quicker the Dario Asugo can come back to fitness, the better. Because I do think that mentally, and maybe you guys aren't doing it as much, but mentally, we have to just detach ourselves from Romeo Lavia just for the time being. Almost like I did a little bit of Reece James. And look how good that's coming now in terms of being fit and available. Now, Caicedo coming on for him is not something that I would have wanted, to be completely honest. And with hindsight of how the game went, clearly it was something that we were going to need, because would we have even got a draw there without a Caicedo on the pitch or some of the bigger players that came on that I'll speak about? But when we're looking at a game like Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday night, a game that I'll be at, by the way, I am desperate for a win in that one. And if you're desperate for a win, you're desperate for a Caicedo start and a full 90, aren't you? So seeing the likes of a Caicedo doesn't rule him out or even make it unlikely that he's going to play against Wolves, but he's going to be less rested. You know, we saw Estevao play a full 90 minutes tonight, be quite impactful, but ultimately not impactful enough to win us the game. He's played a full 90. Will he feature against Wolves? So ultimately, I wouldn't have wanted to see Caicedo for the whole 90 minutes, but it's not an ideal world and you don't get what you want. And just after the 10-minute mark, you've got Carabag begging for a penalty after one of their players felt that Hato had brought them down in the box. Now, obviously, I'll give you a quick breakdown of it. Was Hato's back pass awful? Yes. Was there a man through on goal? Yes. Was there a coming together? Yes. But upon watching the replay, it's hard for me to tell whose leg hit whose. Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether it was a trailing leg. I don't know whether it was the forward leg. Would I have appealed for it if it was a Chelsea player that went down? Of course I would. So that's one of them ones. Do you know what I mean? But I've seen them given, I've seen them not given. It's only minutes later, though, that Chelsea are really feeling like we're on our way to something good, right? Estevao, he opens the scoring after we counter. Santos is actually sort of occupying the number 10 role, puts it through to Estevao. Estevao cuts it inside onto his stronger foot and pings it past the goalkeeper. And once drilling that ball past the goalkeeper, it means that in 7 starts so far for Chelsea Football Club, he's helped himself to 5 goal involvements and already sits as our top goal scorer in all comps. Does he? Yeah, of course he does. Sits as our top goal scorer in all competitions. This is a lad who has just turned 18, by the way. A man who by that logic has never lived in a world without iPhones. You know what I mean? Never. Yeah. Never lived in a world without iPhones. Probably never lived in a world without, I don't know, everything. Just about everything. You know what I mean? He's probably never watched a DVD. There's a good chance Estevao's probably never watched a DVD. How mad is that? And why am I making these points? I'm making this point because when you look at how good Estevao is now, he's 18. He's just turned 18 in, I think, April. How good's he going to be when he's 23 years old? 5 years on from now. Wow. Anyway, enough going on about Estevao because it's not really the sort of video where you want to glaze over your players too much. And we'd be right not to. Because just before the half an hour mark, Carabag get themselves back into the game after yet again another ball over the top that our defence fails to deal with. More importantly, Hato in this moment, and look, I'm not going to go hard on him. He's a young player, just comes to the club and obviously isn't a first team starter at this moment in time, but performances will need to pick up massively if he's going to get himself to be a first team starter in that centre back position, or ultimately, or alternatively, whether he's going to play back up to Kukurea in the left-back position. Just really, really hard for him to deal with the defenders today. And it wasn't just him, by the way. It wasn't just him. It was Tosin as well. But for this particular goal, it was just not strong enough for him. He's got Duran on the back of him, chasing him, pressing him. He ends up nicking it off him, gets a shot off on goal. We're lucky in the moment that it hits the post, but not that lucky because it rebounds to Andrade, who converts it past Robert Sanchez. All in all, to this point, which is around half hour into the game, I thought it was pretty fair, to be honest. I thought it was pretty fair. I thought that Qarabag had probably had just as many efforts as us. I thought they'd started well. I thought they'd showed ambition. And despite getting men behind the ball as much as they could in the early stages, they still showed that they had a lot of intensity and pace on the counter-attack. So I was impressed by them. And I do think that I underestimated them, as well as potentially Chelsea underestimating them. But let's not take away their credit. And I'll be honest, I was thinking at this point, that's probably just about as good as it gets for Qarabag. We're going to go on and win this game, but their home fans have had something to cheer about. It's a cup final occasion for them, and they've done quite well, but we'll get a few goals and we'll be all right, much like it was in the Europa League in the second halves and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You know what happened. Qarabag end up taking the lead just after that. Again, it's a mistake, if you can call it a mistake, from Hato. I'll be honest with you, I feel it was harsh. I feel it was harsh because the rule states that there needs to be intentional, it needs to be intentional, I should say, or that you need to make your body unnaturally bigger. And that's not really what I saw. I'm sure you could get up a few still frames for me and show me that his body does look bigger, but it definitely didn't look intentional. In fact, I would argue that it was pretty much impossible to be intentional from 2 yards out. And to me, it kind of looked like he was trying to get his hand out of the way of the ball rather than in towards the ball. But I do understand that I'd be asking for it again if it was Chelsea, so I'm not going to moan too much about it. Once again, though, despite appealing, Jankovic does get the penalty put on the spot. He converts it past Robert Sanchez to make it 2-1. And this is where I'm starting to feel like this is going to be really, really difficult for us because Qarabag have already showed us they're a good team on the counter-attack. They can now get men behind the ball. They can sit there. They can hold out and take their time with things. And if they get another one on the counter-attack, brilliant. And even if they concede one, a draw would go down as a great result for Qarabag. So that was kind of what I was thinking was going to happen at that time. However, it didn't really go that way, to be honest, because Qarabag continued to attack us, and it was at half-time that Enzo Maresca was bold. He made changes. He brought on the likes of Delap, Enzo Garnacho, in addition to Caicedo, who he had already had on the pitch from the 5th minute. So by this point, we've probably got pretty much our strongest team available to us right now. Obviously, injuries to the likes of Levi, Colwell, Cole Palmer, but available, we've probably just about got our strongest lineup on there, barring the 2 centre-backs at that moment in time. And I'm not going to say it didn't improve us. It did improve us. We made loads more. We were better creatively. At the same time, Qarabag sat back quite a lot. So it's hard to determine whether or not we got better from the changes, but they did make an immediate impact because Garnacho, more or less straight away after coming on, scores. The ball's over the top. Once again, Qarabag. If you are the Qarabag manager, you'd be fuming because you're 2-1 up and you're just flooding the Chelsea half, the Chelsea edge of the area and whatnot. And when that ball comes over the top, we do get a real slice of luck, because Garnacho initially goes to, I think, try to play it over to Estevao. I believe it rebounded to him off the Qarabag player, and that's when he thinks, fuck it, I'm just going to tuck this one home myself. Onto the left foot, bottom corner, slices it past the goalkeeper. And I'll tell you what, from a personal standpoint, Garnacho's going to be really happy with that. Not just because it was a really good finish, but because despite us inevitably picking up more injuries, such would hopefully not, there are a lot of players coming back to fitness now, and you would imagine that once those key players come back, a Liam Delap could affect the starting position of a Garnacho when he gets one, because you could have a João Pedro dropped back into the number 10 role, and then there's one less in that line behind the striker that Garnacho could occupy. So he will be very, very happy that not only did he replace Gittins, he replaced Gittins and made way more of an impact on this game than Gittins has been able to. But to be honest with you, that was pretty much it, wasn't it? Qarabag had a few good chances. We had a lot of chances towards the end. We really, really started to pile on the pressure in those closing moments, last 10 minutes or so of the game. Probably the best of those chances fall into Buenanotte, who was inches from the post with his left-footed effort. And then you had a shot from Enzo Fernandez. I think it was blocked by Liam Delap, actually. And Garnacho, with an acrobatic effort, came close. But not close enough. Not close enough. So a 2-2 draw in the end with Qarabag. Is it a bad result? It's definitely not a good result. Is it? Is there context to it? Yeah. Yeah, of course there is. The mainstream media won't give us that context, but there is the context of it. This is the Champions League. It's the European Cup. Obviously, officially, Qarabag, Azerbaijan aren't a European country, are they? I believe they're officially in Asia. Oh, I'm not sure. The whole point of that isn't for me saying Qarabag shouldn't be in the competition. It's for me saying Europe, closer. Qarabag, a little bit further away, okay? It's quite a far flight. I don't know what it is to Azerbaijan, but I believe it's probably double the amount of distance that most of our Premier League rivals are going to have to travel if they are on the road in this match day or the day after that. Generally a defensively rubbish performance from Chelsea, and I've got to be honest with that. Reece James and Cucurella, not a massive fault. I didn't think they had the best games ever, but it was more down to that centre-back pairing. I thought that Jarell Hatto really didn't give a good account of himself, was bullied in quite a lot of moments, targeted, which is concerning. And I don't know whether this is just on the eye. I should really go on Google and have a look at the actual statistics, but bullied, in my opinion, a few times by players that are actually quite slight compared to him. Not the biggest of players and not the most physical of players. Then again, at the same time as that, I see an Estevao and his ability to hold up the ball against stronger players. So I'm not going to go in on Hatto too much, but Hatto and Tosin as a centre-back pairing isn't one that I'm clamouring to see all that time soon. Definitely not in the league anyway. We just gave away too much between our centre-back pairings, whether that's getting caught in possession or getting beat for pace. It just weren't there today. It really weren't. But, if we can get a defensive line with the likes of a Wesley Fofana and a Trevor Chalobah or a Joshua Changpong, ideally, that would be brilliant. That would be absolutely brilliant for Saturday's game against Wolves. We did see glimpses of João Pedro and Liam Delap. Obviously, Pedro playing in that number 10, Liam Delap in the number 9, and I was half impressed and half not impressed by Liam Delap. I'll go easy on him because he's had a long time on the sidelines, but the finishing wasn't clinical today from Liam Delap. The spaces he got himself into in that second half were quite good, and they complemented João Pedro quite well, because one or two of those times it was João Pedro that fed the ball through to Liam Delap. So definitely a sign of things to come in the short term, and definitely food for thought in the long term when it comes to Cole Palmer coming back into this team. Listen, people, 7 points from our opening 4 games. Would I have took that? No. Do I think that that's going to stop us advancing to the next stage of the competition? No. And am I worried about the fact that we're struggling to build consistency? Well, I mean, we've won 6 out of our last 8 games, something like that. Consistency in performances, yeah, but at the same time as that, we'll see better teams drop points to lesser teams in this season's Champions League. The main thing is we didn't get beat there. We come away and we've got players fit and available for the Wolves game on Saturday. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, people. But at the same time, we've got a lot of winnable matches. And that's the fourth team we've played in this season's Champions League competition. And I've got to be honest with you. Between Bayern Munich, Benfica and Ajax, I never thought I'd be saying this, but it was only the Germans who were better than Qarabag tonight. Qarabag were way better than Benfica and Ajax. I was at both matches. I was at one of the matches. I might have been at both. I can't remember. Either way, let me know your thoughts on tonight's game. Let me know what you would like to see changed for the Wolves game, more importantly, and I will see you all in the next one.